Our principles are rooted in self-government.
Эпоха великих и бессмертных дел.
Communism, according to all its own leaders, must be a system of international control and conformity.
Socialism is liberty. It's democracy.
Communism was making formidable gains.
Centrally planned economies, they don't work, period.
The record of the American economy and its success in creating new jobs is enviable.
The American political system has been totally corrupted.
My name is Guido Nunez-Mujica. I am 36 years old. I am Venezuelan. I live between San Francisco and Denver. Originally, I am a computational biologist. These days, I'm a data scientist. I have a job in a tech company in Silicon Valley. I'm married. I have been married, it's gonna be 4 years this year. He's an attorney for the US Department of Agriculture. Everything that happens in the world is in reaction to the US. There's a big protest today in San Francisco at the UN Plaza, the Hands Off Venezuela protest. We're making signs for the protest. We're gonna go to counter-protest, and I'm gonna ask them, what are you doing for Venezuelans who are suffering right now?
You were born here in privilege, and you're telling me you know more about my country than me?
We're sick of this rich, privileged people who know nothing about Venezuela, who probably in their lives haven't talked to a single Venezuelan, trying to explain to me how really my country is doing and what really is going on there. No. Oh, I think you're not with trans people. You're not with trans people. You're supporting a government that doesn't allow people to legally change their names. I will certainly get annoyed and I'm gonna lose my temper.
They're destroying the Venezuelan rainforest with the Orinoco mining art, and no one here fucking cares about it.
As anti-imperialists, we must bring U.S. imperialism.
Shame on you! Shame on you!
In Venezuela.
Shame on you!
You're here in a first world country, in a fucking plaza, doing nothing for hungry people, for people who are being tortured right now.
Hey, you shut up! We can't you!
You have any problem with me being gay? Are you gonna give me any shit because I'm gay? I'm fucking gay, and I'm in San Francisco, so they fucking calling me photo. I'm proud of being gay. Homosexual slandering is not acceptable. No más dictadura, no más dictadura. You're supporting rapists, you're supporting torturers, you're supporting murderers. That's what you're supporting. Do you know that?
White guilt. White guilt.
From a fucking gringa! Why gringa privilege? That's what you're fucking doing here.
I expect that people will threaten us with violence.
Fucking let go!
Whoa, what the fuck?
Dude, you're in front of us. I cannot say what's in front of me because of fucking you. See, nothing has changed. White people oppressing minorities.
Capitalism has allowed people to flourish and to collect wealth. And where they are wealthy and comfortable, they have a lot more spare time to see what doesn't work for others and complain on their behalf and start crying and clean their tears with $100 bills.
Can you imagine what they do in Venezuela to people like us who don't agree with them?
My name is Carlos Ramirez-Rosa. I have a partner, his name is Brian. I have the great honor and privilege of serving as Alderman of the 35th Ward here in the great city of Chicago. How are things going along here? I'm also a proud member of the Democratic Socialists of America. Today, while it was snowing, I was so happy to be joined by dozens of residents of the 35th Ward that came together in support of 100% affordable housing on a city-owned parking lot just steps from the Logan Square Blue Line stop in the 35th Ward.
Sí se puede! Sí se puede!
We cannot love them if we push them out.
Residents came together because over the last 10 years, we've seen 19,000 mostly Latino working class families pushed out of the Logan Square neighborhood by big developers, by rising rents. And so we have an opportunity to build a 100-unit, 100% affordable development there that will be housing for families that are facing displacement right now from Logan Square. We came together in the snow, we sang, we prayed, we committed ourselves to continue to push forward this project.
Carlos Ramirez-Rosa.
When I know that I'm going to go to an event and, I'm going to talk to dozens or sometimes maybe hundreds of people, I do get anxious, but that's the job.
Hate has no home here. But the working people of the city will have a home right here. Just step on the Logan Square Blue Lights.
I'm doing what I would do for free, and that is, work to make a more just world. When I see injustice, it's like there's like a fire burning in my stomach that makes me want to get up and say something and do something about it.
Housing is a human right. Thank you so much. See you on October 4th.
I was born in Caracas in 1983. None of my parents finished high school. It was difficult for them to deal with me because I learned how to read at a very early age. Ooh. Memories, so many. In 1998, when Chavez was elected, I don't remember any member of my family that didn't support him. He was very smooth talking and very serious, like, no, there's no way on earth I'm gonna do everything I will end up doing. When he engaged in full dehumanizing of rich people, he said, the rich are not human, they are animals in human shape. That was the precise moment where I decided to leave Venezuela for good. This has no salvation, there's nothing I can do here. Have you seen any scenario in history where the ruler of a nation starts dehumanizing a group of people and there's no blood afterwards? I don't remember any. Do you? My parents are still in Venezuela. They haven't left. They don't want to leave. There's nothing I can do other than support them. One day, I expect they're going to tell me I want out, and I'll do my best and I'll help them, but it's something that makes me angry and makes me frustrated, so I don't even touch the subject, because to me, staying in Venezuela means death. As simple as that.
So I was born in the city of Chicago. My mother is from northern Mexico, a state called Coahuila. My father was from Puerto Rico. We ended up having 3 kids. I was a nerdy kid, was definitely very much into history. I went to college at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I went there for 4 years and got my Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science. I also had worked very hard to elect President Barack Obama in 2008. Just like many other young people that were inspired by his message of hope and change. And to then day in and day out speak with, people that are from my community, that are neighbors, right? And hear about, the devastation that was being caused by Barack Obama's deportation regime. For me, that was very jarring, right? It made me question what it meant to be a Democrat. So it was July of 2014, and I was 25 years old. I told my family I was going to run for alderman. People thought I was crazy. People thought I had no shot at winning. I actually lost my father a month before the election. And I remember the day before the election, walking around, the main street in the ward, shaking people's hands, and folks were just like, well, you gave it a good try, maybe next time. The polls were closed. I was like, this is, right? Now we know, right? I went to the parking lot where my dad taught me how to drive. Then my phone just started blowing up. And it was like texts and Facebook messages and people saying congratulations. And then I got a call from my campaign manager, and he's like, you won, you need to come back immediately because you need to make a speech.
Before capitalism, the vast majority of humans lived a short life of abject poverty. In 1700, human life expectancy was 35. It's around this time that capitalism got its start in England and Northwest Europe. For the first time, income wasn't distributed by a king or a military dictator. Instead, income was distributed through markets. Capitalism unleashed centuries of pent-up human potential. We conquered the roads, the skies, and even outer space. In 1820, 94% of the world lived in extreme poverty. Today, that number is under 8%.
I'm just going to say that centrally planned economies, however you want to call them, they don't work, period. What they have in Sweden, what they have in Norway, what they have in Denmark are not centrally planned economies. They are market economies that have a robust welfare network and they take care of people. But in order to have the money to take care of people, you need to create wealth. So I don't really understand why we keep insisting in appropriating this word that has been used to kill millions of people. Celebrities that visit Chavez, the ones I can remember are Sean Penn and Susan Sarandon and Danny Glover, Oliver Stone, and Courtney Love has these delightful pictures of her kissing Chavez. He was the political star, of course, and he was against Bush, therefore he was good. That's it. It's as simple as that. Anything in the mind of a lot of these people, anything that goes against America, good. Anything that helps America, bad. That's it. There's no analysis needed. The average Venezuelan has lost something like 20 pounds, and that was 1 or 2 years ago, so now it's certainly worse. And this is all because of the terrible economic policies of both Chavez and Maduro. And this is something that is hard for most people to understand. In Venezuela, there's no way you can thrive. There's no way you can succeed. Everything you do will be destroyed and curtailed by the government. If you make a penny, they will take that penny from you. I started an organization called Salto. We have helped more than 100 people to leave Venezuela. It feels happiness, it feels great, because every person that is out is one less life that those fuckers are not ruining.
By the 1800s, capitalism was creating wealth for some, but misery for others. Factory workers were exploited. 14 to 16-hour workdays were the norm, so were 6-day work weeks. Working conditions were usually unsafe, sometimes deadly. Pay was poor. Living conditions were dismal and unhygienic. In 1848, philosopher Karl Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto. In it, he called for a worldwide workers' revolution and for the abolishment of private property. Socialism catches fire. It is tried over and over again with disastrous results. But the hope remains that one day a country will finally get it right.
What we have seen occur in Venezuela is not socialism. What we've actually seen is cronyism. What we should recognize, however, is that at the start of the Bolivarian Revolution, right, with Hugo Chavez, there actually was a massive investment in the community, and we saw life expectancies increase, we saw a decrease in poverty. But we've also seen economic destabilization occur in Venezuela, in part because of US intervention. My main critique of the Cuban government would be around issues of democracy and ensuring that you have a more democratic system. But I think that when you look at the outcomes of around health, around education, around life expectancy, around happiness, right? There's different metrics to look at how happy do people report that they are. I think that Cuba globally is doing very well in comparison to countries with similar amounts of wealth. To me, socialism is liberty, it's democracy. It's making sure that we are truly free. One of the ways in which we're most dictated to is in the workplace. There are folks that are being forced today in America to work 12-hour, 14-hour days. There are folks today in America that are being told when they can use the bathroom as adults, right?
58% of all new income is going to the top 1%.
So I think that when folks hear what socialists are proposing, Medicare for all, free college tuition, living wage for all workers, investment in jobs that will help us, tackle climate change, those are issues that are wildly popular. The reality is that folks want what democratic socialists are offering. Do I believe that, capitalism is the most efficient way to structure our society? No, I do not. Do I believe that capitalism is the most fair way to structure our economy? No, I do not. I think that capitalism is leading us to ruin. I view myself ideologically as a socialist because for a very long time I was a progressive. I fought very hard in 2008, campaigned very vigorously for the election of President Barack Obama. I was in Grant Park the night that he won. I remember crying as he talked about the country that we are and that we could be. And then as an immigrant rights organizer and activist, I saw 2 million undocumented people deported, more than have been deported under President Trump. And I heard from people across the globe that saw their family members killed by a drone strike. I saw the way in which the same bankers that had been in bed with the Bush administration continued to have massive sway over what was happening in the White House.
The word socialism has been historically used by people like Stalin or like Chavez or many others to hide. Oh, I have this thing that's really nice, and then they take power.
As usual, riots accompany the successful revolt of the army.
And to be so in love of revolutions, as obviously Bernie Sanders is.
Every public college and university will be tuition free.
The reason why I support Bernie Sanders is because he himself consistently says, it's not about me, it's about us. The reason why I call myself a socialist is because I see myself as engaging in the advocacy and in the movement that so many other freedom fighters in the history of the United States have engaged in, whether it be Eugene Debs, whether it be Martin Luther King, who identified as a democratic socialist. I view myself in that vein. A critical aspect of being a socialist is believing in mass movement and believing that the people will be the ones that liberate themselves.
Socialists don't have the monopoly on that. A lot of people in Venezuela are very anti-socialist. And I resent that you're trying to use a basic, innate trait of humans, no matter what our political views are, to support your views.
No, my view is that when people are oppressed, they should engage in collective action.
And then you call it socialism.
As long as we continue to have a system where the rich and powerful are able to buy influence in government, where you have a revolving door between government and corporate America, that we would not have the transformational and fundamental change that we need. And it's why, as a country and as a globe, we have failed to tackle climate change. It's why we are barreling towards extinction, because we continue to have a system where we put profit over everything else.
I think you're too idealistic. Humans are nasty animals many times. And I could give you examples of horrible environmental degradation during Soviet Union or during the Great Leap Forward in China. Terrible.
Yeah. It's wrong. It's bad.
And you will keep finding ways of, oh, that's not socialism. So what I think is, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna be direct, is that every time that something negative comes from that side, you engage on a no true Scotsman fallacy. Oh, they're not real. They're not real. That's not true socialism. It doesn't matter if you're a socialist, it doesn't matter if you're a capitalist, if you believe in mutualist economy, whatever. If you don't have the right environmental policy, we're fucked.
Then what then do you suggest we do? Because currently, I think we both agree that the current situation is not tenable.
No.
So what then, as someone that doesn't identify as a socialist, right, what then do you propose we do?
Market economies that are regulated, that have a strong social welfare network, that makes sure that, and we have that in Northern Europe, that is possible, it is doable.
I feel like if we were to have the ideal society that you describe, ultimately, because you still have people that are able to accumulate wealth, they're going to chip away at those regulations, and we're going to end up right back at where we started, where we have massive income inequality. And so that is why I feel like we need to have a society where there isn't a capitalist class, right? Where there aren't people that control the means of production, where there aren't people, at the top that are able to use their wealth to buy influence in government. The right wing isn't tempering their demands.
No, they're going
wilder. They're not tempering their demands.
It's completely the opposite. They're getting wilder and wilder. Yeah, you're right on that.
It's paying dividends for them. And that is, to me, indicative of how do you compromise with someone that doesn't even see you as a human being? How do you compromise with someone that wants to deny you completely your humanity and your liberty?
That's how I feel about the essay.
Come on, James! Come on, James!
I was in a demonstration in San Francisco of all places.
Mm-hmm.
I was called a faggot.
By who?
By someone who was on the other side.
See, yo soy gay. You have any problem with me being gay? Are you gonna give me any shit because I'm gay? I'm fucking gay, and I'm in San Francisco, so they fucking call me proto. I'm proud of being gay. You have a problem with that? Homosexual slandering is not acceptable.
This was at the rally?
Yeah.
And people were yelling at you?
They were pushing me.
Mm-hmm.
You're not letting me see what's in front of me.
3 white guys so convinced of supporting the Venezuelan people, just pushing me and not letting me talk. So convinced of how progressive they are.
I'm sorry that some people that identify as leftists or socialists engage in that behavior and treated you that way. That is not comradely.
For decades, Venezuela was a stable and prosperous democracy. But in the 1990s, that began to change with political corruption and falling oil prices. In stepped Hugo Chavez, a self-described Marxist who promised to uplift the country's poor. Through massive redistribution, Chavez built schools, hospitals, and housing. His reforms were popular. Some Hollywood stars sang his praises. And they weren't the only ones. But these reforms came with a very heavy price tag. Chavez basically abolished Congress and the judiciary, shut down opposition press, nationalized more than 1,000 companies, and gave himself unlimited wealth and power. And then oil prices fell, and it was game over. Today, Venezuela is in the midst of a humanitarian crisis. Blackouts are the norm. Inflation is over 5,000%. The murder rate is the 3rd highest in the world. The poverty rate is a staggering 87%. Food is so scarce, the average citizen lost 24 pounds last year. Some locals call it the Venezuelan diet.
The authoritarianism that you are deriding in Venezuela is a direction that we're moving in right now with President Donald Trump and about capitalists. And capitalists themselves are supporting that. How many CEOs of big corporations have come out and said, oh, I gave money to Donald Trump because I support his tax cut policy?
Way too many.
That's capitalism, my brother. Capitalism is fine with fascism as long as it allows them to continue to
They have
make profits.
capitalism.
They are fine.
They have capitalism in Northern Europe.
They are fine with an administration that seeks to strip trans people of their rights. They are fine with an administration that seeks to put immigrants and refugees in jails and take away their children. They're fine with that as long as their profits are protected.
Socialists were fine with that too. What is the status of
You just said that socialists in the I'm responding
of trans rights in Venezuela?
So you asked me to allow you to speak. I'm asking you to allow me to speak too. And I'm not asking you to trust me to take you somewhere. I'm asking you to trust in our ability to collectively govern ourselves and be free from any interference, whether it be from a boss, a billionaire, or a demagogue.
I have heard this speech before, and it ended where it ended. I have heard almost the exact same words from people telling me to trust Chavez and to trust blah, 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 blah. All those words are very nice, but I have heard them before. People from Eastern Europe have heard them before. Cubans have heard them before. And it's all words. What guarantee do we have that we're not going to end up like the systems that DSA still supports?
I guess I'm not going to be able to convince you, given your experience, that therefore then that means that you should call yourself socialist or that we should all be socialists.
You were not wise enough to look there and see an authoritarian individual that was doing all sorts of horrible things. How can we trust you that you're going to get right this country that's a lot more complex? And how are we going to trust you with the future of civilization where you weren't even able to see what Venezuela was going through?
There's not a collectivized government in Venezuela. Unless you're saying that Venezuela is this truly democratic society.
Okay, well, that wasn't my point. My point is, it is as horrible as it is. What is the DSA saying? What is the official position?
My position?
No, not your position. The DSA position. What is?
I actually don't. Do you know? I haven't read if they issued a statement.
You were cheerleaders for them for years and years. Your organization has the moral responsibility to say, you know what? We got it wrong. You haven't.
There's a lot of data that shows that many people, as a result of the social programs of Hugo Chavez, benefited in terms of healthcare, benefited in terms of education.
Oil prices.
Precisely. But to have praised a country's oil wealth going towards uplifting people out of poverty, redistributing that wealth so that those at the bottom get the assistance that they need, I don't think that that's wrong. Is your judgment?
You aspire to change the world and you cannot see something as obvious as 2011 Venezuela? But come on. Someone who aspires to be in a position of power in this country cannot have such a terrible judgment.
Again, I suspect that Senator Sanders and other socialists would point to data in 2011 that showed the social and economic advances that were made under President Hugo Chavez.
It's even more fundamental than that.
I want to make our military so...
You see the way Trump behaves. And even if the economy is booming, you can say, that is not right. That is not correct. You're a fucking piece of shit. You're a garbage human. It's as fundamental as that. You know what? I don't care if Dow Jones tomorrow make it to 40,000. Kids are in cages. Period. That's unacceptable. And the way you treat people counts. You had all the information necessary to know that not only that this was going to happen, but that Chavez was an authoritarian pig.
The critique that you're presenting right now, where someone romanticized and was enamored by a struggle for freedom or liberation that ultimately did not live up to the promise that it initially presented.
And don't learn from it.
You're casting too many aspersions.
What I see in you is something that I saw hundreds of times in Venezuela. People who were very energized and who believed, but when what happened, had zero power. And now they are living in Chile, they are living in Ecuador, they are living here, having the burden on their conscience that they devote their youth to build a system that end up killing our country, destroying it completely, and forcing us to emigrate.
Socialism has never really taken off in the United States. Its peak was in 1912 during the presidential election when Eugene Debs got 6% of the vote. And then came 2016. Suddenly, socialism was no longer a dirty word. Now, some statistics do help the socialist cause. The top 1% in the United States own as much as the bottom 90%. But other stats support free markets. Since 1960, extreme global poverty is down 80%. Lifespans are up 40%. And even in the US, the poverty rate has been cut in half over the past 50 years. The fight between free markets and socialism has been the biggest global conflict of the past 200 years. And it's a fight that seems destined to go another round.
I don't feel like I have heard from you or from liberals or progressives a cogent strategy to defeat Trump and to move us towards social and economic justice. What I've heard is to engage in the same losing strategy that we have for the past 30 years, where we feed into the narrative that the right wing has set up, where we seek to compromise our values, where we seek to compromise our messaging in hopes that we'll win an election. And that is why I'm a socialist. I think that we need people out in the streets demanding more. And I think that democracy is the only true guarantor of liberty. And I seek to expand democracy to every single aspect of life. I reject authoritarianism, whether it be in the Soviet Union, whether it be in Venezuela, whether it be in Trump's White House. I want to see people have control over their lives so that we can create a more just society. And I think that as long as we continue to have people that can amass wealth, that can buy influence in government, the inevitable march will always be towards fascism, towards authoritarianism, towards destruction of planet Earth, and a denial of people's rights. That's my pitch to you.
I will flip that and tell you, if you want that, you need to appeal also to people like me, people concerned about this love affair with any authoritarian emergence saying, oh, I will take care of the people. And you need to engage with them as well. You need to engage with millions of people who came here from the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe looking for better lives that are afraid, rightly so, of socialism. The key point here, Sanders and so many people in the American left and in the world left, they are so in love with revolution and people uprising that they end up going to these places, oh Cuba, oh Venezuela, oh Nicaragua. This is a collective black point that the left has, that we keep falling and falling and falling for these nasty authoritarian regimes. And then 5 years later, when it fails, us get to pick up the pieces. Us get to pick up the dead people.